why we want to disrupt business as usual is the pivotal point of the next speaker's talk, one that underlies how or what. He is co-founder of Nativa, the first benefit corporation and certified B Corp in Europe. And from him, we will learn why you want to create value-based competition between companies and how to get there. He is an engineer, a designer, an entrepreneur, and he has a strong record in sustainable innovation and is helping redefine what growth means. Please welcome Paolo Di Cesare.
Thanks, Christina. Thanks, Christina. Hello, everyone. So I would like to take a moment for a quick poll. So we'll make a few questions, so please you raise your hands. So the first question is, how many of you work for a not-for-profit organization or in public administration? Please. Okay, so maybe 6-7%. Thank you. How many of you work for a B Corp or benefit corporation? Okay, over there, so maybe 3 or 4%. We were 0 a year ago, so congratulations. And third question, who work for a non-benefit corporation? Okay, a few, maybe 8%. So the point is that the sum should add up to 100. So probably my question wasn't clear. The idea today is to go through the concept of B Corporation, so maybe at the end of the speech we can converge to a shared definition of what a non-benefit corporation could mean. So let's get started. You are probably all familiar with the Maslow hierarchy of needs. There exists a clearly structured list of basic needs for human. And motivation theory said that if you want to have a person motivated in doing something, you need to satisfy all these needs, starting from the lower, in a strict sequence, from the bottom to the top. But I came across a much more fascinating, for me, theory called human scale development from the sociologist Max Neff, who actually introduced 9 fundamental human needs: subsistence, protection, participation, idleness, that means ozio, affection, understanding, creativity, identity, and freedom. They are fundamental for 2 main reasons. The first reason is that they always been the same. They will be always the same for all humans. In other words, we have the same fundamental human needs of these 2 guys, in the past and in the future. I don't know if this is a future. It was difficult to find a picture. And Captain Kirk was a good idea, I think. So they've always been the same. What can change are the means through which I can satisfy my fundamental human needs. Think about participation. We now have such a platform that did not exist just a few years ago that can partially satisfy my need of participation. The second reason for which they are called fundamental, is that there is no hierarchy. If just one of them is missing for a person for a certain period of time, that person can get sick. If it is deprived for too long, he may ultimately even die. This is easy to understand when it comes to food or water, but even not a free person can die. Why don't I tell you this? Because I met with a company that I will call Meraviglia, who actually is keeping track, the HR department is keeping track of all the satisfaction level of all these human needs for each single person in the company. What kind of participation am I ensuring to my people? What kind of satisfactor are available for them? Am I creating the right working condition to let them fully express their creativity potential? Those are the questions. So because there is always improvement when it comes for fundamental human needs. And the role of the HR department in this company is to fill up the holes. What is missing? They are now extending this methodology even outside the company to people of suppliers or people living in the community where the company has its facilities. And what we have, reflecting on this company with my dear friend Eric, we actually came to the conclusion that this company introduced a bug in the operating system. They are not only applying books and best practice, they want to change. And they introduce a bug in the operating system. Because after all, business is a technology. Because it was invented by humans. It is invented every day by humans. It does not exist in nature. So it is a technology. And it has an operating system. And Meraviglia is actually decided to add an additional purpose rather than profit, to have a positive impact on people within and without the company. And they say to be a force for good. Think about 200 years ago, which was the most common operating system for companies. Someone already thought about it today. It was slavery. It was common and accepted that slavery was an operating system for companies. Slaves as a workforce. This is a shame. I feel shame for it. It is an ugly stain in our history. But those managers and entrepreneurs that were applying this operating system are us 200 years ago, humans. But back then, we can visualize probably a company or a bunch of companies who, much longer the official abolition of slavery, they decide to phase out, to not use people as slaves. We can imagine them. Those companies introduced a bug in the common operating system at that time. A precise, strong, straightforward kickoff of a business evolution. That was the role of this company. But why we were able to apply such an ugly operating system? This is the question. Why? We humans. There are a bunch of reasons. I want to focus only on one of them. If you look at the civil codes in Western countries and you try to find a definition of a company, you will find this definition. A company exists to maximize shareholders' return in America and US. And in Italy, per dividere negli utili. Just this sentence, one statement. A company exists to share profit. So I would say that a couple of fundamental ingredients were completely ignored and are still ignored. And those are people and planet. Where is people and planet in this civil code? Where are them? By far the most urgent issues of this century. As we're learning today, an exponential as a period of deception. So something is happening, but we didn't notice it. We can notice it. And for hundreds of years, we couldn't feel the pressure of population growth or climate change. But it was happening already. It was boiling underneath. But now we are here. That's why we feel the pressure of population and climate change. Think about the population growth. I was born in 1970, and when I was born, the population on Earth was 3.4 billion inhabitants. Today we are 7.6 billion. So it has doubled in my lifetime. It has tripled in my father's lifetime. 3 times. That's an exponential. Think about climate change. I'm sure I don't need to explain you this. This is the CO2 atmosphere in the atmosphere concentration. This is clearly an exponential. I'm an engineer, and I studied exponential in my courses. But only when I went to Singularity University in Palo Alto for 10 days, I started to understand what really an exponential could mean. And I always use this game, so please a second with me. This is a paper. If I fold it once, the thickness of this paper is going to be the double. If I fold it again, it's going to be 4 times, 8 times, 60 times, 32, and so on. If you fold it 40 times, 40, which will be the thickness of this paper? Guess it, please. Singularity University alumni, they can't respond. Thickness will be how much? I'll tell you, the average distance between the Earth and the Moon. But the point is not only this one. Is that if I fold it 39 times, one less more, I will be in the middle of the distance, far, far away from the Moon. So that's the curve that the CO2 concentration is following. Next year, we will be on the Moon. to use this metaphor. In fact, one of the consequences was that 2016 was the hottest year ever recorded by humans in the last 200 years. And I want to show you this graph. It's pretty complex. This is the average temperature in each single country. Okay? You can see also continent Europe, America, Italy is here. Okay? Measured with respect to a base period, that is the average temperature between 1951 and 1980. Okay, so and you will see that 0 is the level of the base period. And this is the temperature in each single country, the average temperature per year. And you probably know that in COP21 in Paris 2 years ago, all countries signed a contract, let me say that, to keep the temperature lower than 2 degrees. But as you can see, already in the United States, Canada, France, Norvegia, and some other countries are already recording temperatures that are more than 2 degrees higher. I was invited by a CEO of a big European company to talk about sustainable innovation, to talk about big corporation, and Exponential. And the room of the CEO was there, Tower 1, 7th floor. At the end of the conversation, this guy told me, you know what, I want my company to be at the forefront of this transformation, this big transformation that is happening. So, but before starting, let me introduce you the director of CSR, Corporate Social Responsibility. So we took the elevator from the 7th floor, and we went down from the 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and I was starting to think, where is the CSR director? Then we went to the hall and walked along the hall to the second tower, and we finally got to the CSR director, which is at the 7th floor. You know, all this logic about the relevance of a role and the floor. But look at that. The two offices could not be farther apart, the one from each other. On a side, you find the person responsible for the business. And on the other side, the person responsible for the social and environmental impact of the company. The farthest as possible. So, in front of the two most threatening challenges of this century, both showing exponential partners, is it the business responding with the two towers model? That's the question. No way. It can't be. And Meraviglia is part of a business community. They're already trying to reinvent business. And they decided to start with two main actions, very easily. First one, we need to reprogram our operating system. We need to change it, reprogram. A new version is needed. Second, we need to measure our impact. Because if you want to change, you'll be willing to experiment, so you need to measure your impact. And there is a name for this company. They're called Benefit Corporation. In fact, in 2010, in Maryland, USA, followed by other 32 states, a new kind of corporation has been introduced in the national legislations, Benefit Corporation. The chief distinction with for-profit is that these are dual-purpose companies. Profit, like all the others, and a positive impact on environment and society. Technically, they need to rewrite the kernel of the operating system. That is the statute, the bylaws, the company's bylaws, lo statuto. They need to write what they stand for, what they will seek together with the profit, so that all current and future shareholders, all current and future managers, and people in general, they will seek for that purpose with the same priority and relevance they are applying to profit. And also, when they actually publish the yearly financial report, they also have to issue another report that is called impact report, where they measure the impact that they were able to create along the previous year. And to do that, they use an international standard called B Impact Assessment that is available online for free, that it takes into account governance, community, workers, environment, and business model of the company. At the end, you get, as a company, your impact profile and the areas of needed improvement. But also, you get a score. You can see here. You need also a score. Between 0 and 200, what is called the B Impact Assessment Score, where 80 is the total break-even. Each company uses inputs and gives back outputs. Inputs like natural resources, hours of their people working for the company, and so on. If the minimum score is higher than 80, that means that the company is creating value, financially, socially, and also environmentally. And if the score is lower than 80, then it is a negative value. And if the score is larger than 80, that company is also awarded with the B Corp certification. That's the name. There are today more than 2,300 certified B Corps in the world, from 50 different countries, 140 industry, and one goal, to reinvent business for this century. You probably recognize some logos: Ben & Jerry's, Happy Family, Kickstarter is a B Corp and a benefit corporation, Patagonia, Natura from Brazil, and of course, Singularity University is a B Corp, a benefit corporation in the state of California. And why Singularity University is a B Corp? Because for Singularity University, this is the key pillars to have an abundant future. This is necessary. Think about all the exponential that we actually saw today, the technologies. We need to reinvent the operating system, even to have, in order to have a prosperous future for all. Otherwise, who knows about exponential technologies? The Italian community was just recognized as the fastest growing community in the world. You recognize, this is my company Nativa, but Fratelli Carli, Alessi, Davines, Perlage, these are all Italian companies that just became certified B Corp. There are certifications, but also there are more than 65,000 companies today that are already using the B impact assessment. So they are trying to evaluating their impact. Look at that. This is an exponential. 65,000 companies, making it the largest business benchmark of the human history. But what is the average value of this company? The score is 55. So this 65,000 company, pretty lower than the minimum score. So they are not performing well enough. Why? Because they were built on different premises. They are not built to have a positive impact on society and on the biosphere. This is Yvon Chouinard from Patagonia. He became a B Corp, a certified B Corp, and he changed the legal status of the company into a benefit corporation in 2012. And the guy said, 10 years from now, we'll look back and say B Corporation were the start of the revolution because the existing system doesn't work anymore. This is the future. But beside Patagonia, I want to tell you that I met a guy a year ago in Philadelphia at a global retreat of B Corps, and the typical question between B Corp entrepreneur is, what's your impact? And the guy told me, my parents found a restaurant in Medellin, Colombia, and they wanted to have an impact. So they decided to hire only single mothers employee, single mother, because that's an issue in Colombia. Okay, how many employees do you have? 9,000. Of which 8,500 were single mothers employees. So imagine the impact that this company is having while in the same moment they're having a big success. I read an article on Harvard Business Review with Eric, my business partner, and 2012-11, introducing the 4 benefit enterprise. You can read it. With the power to transform the course of capitalism. And we decided to write our statute, nostro statuto, our company bylaws, by looking as a reference at American law. And you know what happened? The Chamber of Commerce in Milan rejected it 4 times. Because you can't add an additional purpose to the statute, because the company is not yours, it's a third with respect to the founder. So you can't actually change it, adding another purpose. But we decided not to give up. And with the strong determination of a leadership of this guy, which is an Italian senator, we were able to promote the law in Italy, and in only 14 months, Italy became the first country in the world outside the US to have a legislation recognizing società benefit. And that's the number of benefit corporations in the world. There are almost 7,000 this year, and 400 of them are Italians. And are changing, transforming themselves every day. Yeah. But this is not occurring only for medium-sized company, like someone could argue. This is a milestone, because in April 27, at the shareholders meeting in Paris, Mr. Faber, CEO of Danone, said in front of all the shareholders that Danone will become a benefit corporation. So they are already starting to get all the single branches certified. It's not easy. It's not, as we said, it's not easy. Danone Spain, for example, became a certified B Corp, and they also are just transformed the largest North American Danone company into the largest, benefit corporation in North America, Danone Way, with 7 billion revenues. I want to recall for a second the slavery again, the shame that we probably share with respect to this event in the past. Because I think that similarly, not long in time, perhaps 10 or 20 years, people will look at 1217 and they will discover there were companies with only one purpose, profit, and having a negative impact on society and the environment. Think about that moment. They will feel shame for it because it will be considered primitive. Before closing, I wanted to choose one important quote. There are a lot of quotes around benefit corporation, from Barack Obama to Bill Clinton or to Nobel Prize winner Robert Schiller. But I choose a quote from a person who will be speaking tomorrow here, Riccardo Sammartini, an entrepreneur and a scientist. And when we introduced to him the concept of B Corp, he listened carefully, and at the end he said, "The idea of B Corp is so obvious that the opposite sounds suspicious." Thank you.
Thank you, Paolo. So we have to be very quick, but key questions. Are there other big corporations aside from Danone who are in the process of becoming B Corps?
Yeah, we have two examples. There are more than two, because I could say that B Lab, which is the organization that is taking care of all this movement in the world, already is having contact with the 50% of Fortune 500 companies.
Wow.
So even big companies. But the one that I want to mention, one is Unilever. Paul Polman, when he became the CEO of Unilever, he found in the group a company called Ben & Jerry's. It was already a B Corp and a benefit corporation in America. So now he's promoting the same model all within the group. And he just, in a recent interview, he said that B Corps within the group, they are having a growing factor of 50% larger than the other brands within the company. The second example, Enel. Yes, wow. Enel, you could actually access their sustainability report this year. They are using the B Impact Assessment, and they are integrating the areas of improvement in their next 3 years sustainability plan.
Wow, thank you. So we hope to see that L curve move towards the benefit and the prosperity of society. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's time for... It's time for coffee break, and make sure you go by the bookshop where you can buy the books of the speakers that have spoken so far.